Welcome to the deep dive. When you think about the American Revolution, how a bunch of colonies actually took on a huge global power, you
Yeah.
kind of have to wonder what was going through their heads.
Right. What gave them that conviction?
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into exactly the powerful ideas that really fueled that massive historical moment. For you listening, it's a great way to quickly get the essence of the intellectual spark behind it all.
Definitely. We're looking straight at the source, the Enlightenment. This incredible wave of thinking happening in Europe, mostly the 17th and 18th centuries.
Okay.
And our mission really is to pull out the core concepts from that time and show how they directly, inspired the American colonists to basically say, we're done with British rule.
So for you, this should hopefully make these big ideas feel really clear and accessible. Okay, let's jump in. What was the Enlightenment exactly, like in simple terms?
Okay, so picture Europe, maybe the 1600s, 1700s. It's a time when thinkers, philosophers, writers, scientists, artists too, they started really focusing hard on reason, on logic.
Instead of just tradition.
Precisely. They began questioning the established authorities, kings, the church, you name it. And this questioning led to a whole flood of new ideas about government, about individual rights, about how society should work.
Yeah, okay.
It was just a period of immense intellectual progress, really. People pushing boundaries, producing these works that really changed things.
Hmm.
For you, think of it as a big shift towards figuring things out logically, not just accepting the status quo.
Right. Less because I said so from the powers that be and more, let's think about this rationally.
Exactly. And this new focus, this questioning, it led directly to some truly revolutionary concepts,
Hmm.
especially about government and freedom,
Mm.
which brings us straight to natural rights. This is key.
Natural rights. Okay, yeah, you hear that term a lot. For you listening, let's break it down. What are we talking about?
So natural rights, the core belief is that everyone, just by virtue of being human, is born with certain fundamental rights, rights that no government can justly take away.
So they're not granted by the government, they just exist.
Exactly. They're inherent. You have them because you're alive. The big ones usually mentioned are life, liberty, and property.
Life, liberty, property. Okay, got it. So these are like baseline entitlements, and a government's job is basically to protect them.
That's the idea. And, this puts a pretty significant limit on government power, right? If you're born with these rights, the government's role isn't to bestow them, but to safeguard them.
Okay, makes sense.
And that leads to the next question.
Yeah.
What if the government doesn't safeguard them? What if it starts infringing on them?
Oh.
Yeah, and that's where a major figure, John Locke, comes in. His ideas were huge here.
Locke. Right. Definitely a key Enlightenment thinker. What was his big contribution?
Well, Locke wrote extensively about natural rights. His famous work, Two Treatises on Government, back in 1689, laid out some really groundbreaking stuff.
Right.
He introduced this concept of the social contract.
Social contract. Okay, for you, what's the gist of that? Is it like an actual contract?
Not literally, no. It's more of a theoretical agreement. Locke argued that people sort of voluntarily agree to form a society and set up a government.
Okay.
In this contract, people give up a little bit of their absolute freedom, the freedom to do absolutely anything, and they grant the government power. But, and this is crucial, they do this in exchange for the government protecting their natural rights. Life, liberty, property.
Ah, I see. So it's a trade-off. We follow the rules, give the government authority, and in return, it keeps us safe and protects our fundamental rights. Like an agreement.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. The government gets its legitimacy, its right to rule, from the consent of the governed, who expect protection in return.
But what if one side breaks the deal? What if the government starts, messing with those rights instead of protecting them?
That is the absolute critical point in Locke's argument. For you listening, this is the revolutionary bit. Locke said, if the government fails in its duty, if it breaks the contract by becoming tyrannical and violating those natural rights,
Then
the people have the right to withdraw their consent. They have the right to alter that government, or even abolish it completely and set up a new one that will uphold their rights.
wow. Okay. So the power ultimately stays with the people. They can take it back if the government goes bad.
That was the radical implication, yes. It flipped the old idea of divine right of kings on its head. It suggested that political authority comes from the people below, not from God above.
That's huge. For you, understanding that the government serves the people, protects their rights, and if it doesn't, the people can act, that really sets the stage.
It absolutely does. And then you have another important philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who kind of built on these social contract ideas.
Rousseau, right. Another big name. How did he add to this? Did he disagree with Locke?
Not entirely disagree, but he emphasized different aspects. Rousseau, particularly in his work, The Social Contract, really hammered home the idea of popular consent or popular sovereignty.
Popular sovereignty, meaning the people rule.
Essentially, yes. For you, Rousseau believed the ultimate political power, the sovereignty, resides with the whole community, with the people collectively. The government is just sort of an agent acting on behalf of the people's general will.
So its authority comes directly from the permission of the people it governs. It's not just derived from them, it is them in a way.
That's a good way to put it. The government is legitimate only as long as it follows the general will of the people. The people are the ultimate authority. This really strengthened that idea that governments are accountable to the citizens.
Okay, so we have these powerful Enlightenment concepts. Inherent natural rights, life, liberty, property. We have the social contract, government by consent, existing to protect rights. And crucially, the right of the people to change a government that fails them. An idea boosted by Rousseau's focus on the people being the ultimate power. For you listening, how did this all connect to actually doing something like the American Revolution?
Right. How does philosophy turn into action? Well, look no further than the Declaration of Independence.
Ah, the big breakup letter, 1776.
Exactly. For you, think of the Declaration as the colonists' official statement explaining why they were separating from England. And when you read it, it's just drenched in these Enlightenment ideas we've been talking about.
Yeah, I remember the opening lines. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Unalienable rights, that sounds just like natural rights, doesn't it?
It's the exact same core concept. Rights you're born with that can't be taken away. Notice the slight shift from Locke's property to pursuit of happiness. But the fundamental idea is pure Enlightenment thinking.
Okay, and then?
Then the Declaration goes on to essentially argue that the British government, specifically King George III, had violated the social contract.
How so?
It lists a long series of grievances, specific actions taken by the British Crown and Parliament that the colonists felt infringed upon their rights and ignored their consent. Things like taxation without representation, quartering troops, obstructing justice.
So basically, they laid out their case. You, Britain, broke the agreement. You trampled on our fundamental rights.
Precisely. They were making the Lockean argument. The government had become destructive of the ends for which it was created, the protection of rights.
And therefore?
And therefore, echoing Locke directly, the Declaration asserts that the people have the right, even the duty, to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security, to declare independence and form their own government.
So for you, the Declaration is like the practical application of Locke and Rousseau's theories. It's saying these philosophical ideas aren't just theories, they justify our actions right now.
Absolutely. It took those Enlightenment principles about rights, consent, and revolution and used them as the bedrock justification for separating from Britain.
It really ties it all together, seeing how these, kind of abstract ideas from European thinkers directly fueled such a monumental event like the American Revolution. So for you listening, just to wrap our heads around the main point here.
The key takeaway, the central connection for you, is this. Enlightenment ideals, particularly natural rights and the social contract, as articulated by thinkers like Locke and Rousseau, provided the core philosophical justification for the American Revolution.
They gave the colonists the intellectual framework, the language, to argue for their independence.
Exactly. And the Declaration of Independence stands as the prime historical document where these principles were explicitly used to claim the right to revolt against a government perceived as tyrannical because it violated those fundamental rights.
The Enlightenment wasn't just talk, it had real-world consequences.
Huge consequences. It provided the intellectual firepower.
Okay, this has been super insightful. It really clarifies that connection. Now, for you listening, just to make sure this is all sticking, maybe take a second to think about these questions.
Yeah, good idea. Ask yourself. First, what basically was the Enlightenment and why was it such a big deal for the American Revolution?
Second, what are natural rights in simple terms? Can you maybe name the main ones?
Third, what's the social contract theory about? And how did Locke and Rousseau shape that idea?
And finally, how did the Declaration of Independence actually show these Enlightenment ideas in action?
Thinking through those can really help solidify it.
Definitely. And maybe one last thing for you to chew on. How do these Enlightenment ideas about rights, about government's role, about the power of the people, how do you think they still echo today? Do they still shape debates we have about government and freedom around the world?
Something to ponder for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.